Exodus chapter 16. Moses and his followers suffer in the desert of Sin without any food. His followers curse at their misfortune after hearing the grumbling of Moses' followers. God tells Moses that he will feed the people with bread. God instructs people to gather just enough food for each day and no more. God also adds that on the sixth day, the followers should gather twice the amount needed for that day. Just as God promised bread like frost covered the surface, all the followers gathered the bread and leftovers were filled with maggots or melted by the sun. On the sixth day, the followers gathered twice as much food needed and leftovers did not melt nor did it fill with maggots. On the seventh day, some of the followers still tried to gather food, but no food was present. God was frustrated at the followers for them gathering on the Sabbath day because it was a day for resting. From then on, the followers rested on the seventh day and gathered enough food on every other day. A lot of repetitions were in this chapter. The word Lord came out 20 times. The word Israelite and Israelites came out 9 times. The word Moses came out 17 times. Day and days came out 16 times. Gather and gathered came out 11 times. Aaron came out 5 times. And commanded came out 5 times. So these were the popular words. So one of the questions I asked was, why does God not allow the followers to gather more than they need? Well, it teaches them how to avoid greed and live a happier lifestyle without the desire or needs for materialistic things like the excess amount of food, bread, etc. The next question I asked was, what is shown when the followers still tried to gather food on the Sabbath day? This is one of the key elements in this chapter. It shows that we are sinful beings who question the authority of God, and we are often doubtful and untrustworthy of others. So one of the Matthew notes I wrote down was, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no. Thus he tried whether they would trust him and walk in the law of faith or no, whether they could live from hand to mouth, and though not uneasy because their provisions were spent, could rest satisfied with the bread of the day in its day. So Matthew Henry emphasized the idea that God is testing the followers. God is seeing if the followers will believe in his words that he will feed the people. Another comment that I wrote, if Moses only had brought them out of Egypt, he could not thus have fed them. They must therefore own that was the Lord's doing, because that was so, and both were marvelous in their eyes. So Matthew is expressing that God has led the Israelites out of Egypt and out to Egypt, and it was not Moses' doing. And this emphasizes that God wants the followers to know that it was him. So one of the Net Bible translations I wrote was, Moses reiterates that it is Yahweh, not him, that has freed the people out of Egypt. So again, it's emphasizing that God is the one in control, not Moses. And verse 12, God assuring that followers that he is their God, he promises to fulfill their needs with bread and meat. At the time, the people knew that Yahweh was their God, but they did not know what it meant. So they didn't know what it meant to have a God. So really, it's the comparison between our desires and what God wants for us. So God wanted the followers to eat just enough, not be selfish, greedy, but we want more. So we are obviously going to try to get more. So the two key questions: what does your chapter show about God? This chapter shows that God often tests his believers and desires for us to trust him as he trusts us. What does your chapter show about people? The Israelites who have just been freed by God lost sight. If God asked things from Moses, this not only shows that we are often forgetful creatures, we are very ungrateful.